Hey YouTube family, it's Dinko the Realtor. When is the time to buy a house in Utah? We're going to be analyzing some articles. We're going to be analyzing some data as well. That way you can dictate when you want to purchase a home in Utah. And remember, when you're looking to buy or sell anywhere in Utah, Dinko the Realtor has your back. Now, if we analyze these numbers here real quick, we see that in June of last year, there was 6,863 units listed on the MLS for sale compared to 5,017, which is negative 1,846 and a negative 23% year over year. This has been a trend that we've been looking at if you've been watching the previous videos for a couple of months now. Now, before we analyze further data here, I want to show y'all what's happening with the student loans. So yes, the student loans did get turned back on. And if we analyze this right here, Department is instituting a 12-month on-ramp to repayment. Essentially, right here, financially vulnerable borrowers who miss monthly payments during this period are not considered delinquent, reported to credit bureaus, or placed in default for 12 months. That means somebody who defaults on their student loan who can't make that monthly payment still has the ability, as long as they meet the loan requirements for a house, for a car, to still go out and make that purchasing decision, because the delinquency is not going to be shown on their credit report, so nobody will know that they are delinquent as things are ramping up. Now, the interest rate accruals will happen for those 12 months, but the late payments, late penalties, reporting to the credit bureaus will not be. Also, retail is now preparing in the economy itself, because these monthly payments are averaging about $300 to $400 per the average borrower, and some borrowers upwards of $1,000 a month. Means less money circulating in the economy. And that is going to be a big issue, because consumer spending is the #1 thing in our US economy for GDP. Now, enough with the student loans. I want to show y'all this before we analyze the numbers. We're going to go over this Excel sheet. That way you can know when to make that purchasing decision based on your timeline. Now, if we analyze this, and we're going to go through this really quickly, soaring car loans put American auto loans underwater. Right here, we see that they are up to 125% loan to value, meaning that there is a ton of loans out there that are underwater, and cars are not an appreciating asset. During the pandemic boom, cars went up, and now they're coming back down. And a car is not like a house, it's a depreciating asset. So we have a ton of Americans that are underwater on these car loans. Well, what happens if they can't make their monthly payment on the student loan? What happens when that finally does start being reported? And if unemployment goes up, we are going to see repos, and we're going to see a crisis where banks are taking these car loans and they are underwater. And that can have a rippling effect on the economy. Now, this is the last article that I'll show here before we take a look at the data. Morgan Stanley says commercial real estate will crash harder than during the great financial crisis in the 08-09. Here's how 5 other institutions see it playing out. So I'm just going to summarize it. Some are saying, hey, it's not going to be as bad as 08-09. It's not going to be as bad as Morgan Stanley saying it will be. And then there's other articles that are stating that commercial real estate, office space buildings in particular, will not recover to their pre-pandemic prices even until 2040. So commercial real estate really is going to be in a bind here, it sounds like, for quite some time. Now, how can we say that the housing market, the economy has stabilized when there are still things unfolding, unraveling? So the thing is, how long do you want to wait? Do you want to wait a year and a half, 2 years, while all of this stuff is unraveling itself and the economy is figuring itself out? If you're in the long-term game, then maybe that's something you're going to do and pay attention. And of course, I'll have these updates as things are changing with what's going on. Now, if you don't want to wait that long, that's what we're going to analyze, when the best time to buy right now. So if we take a look at this Excel sheet, we know that the listings are down 1,800 units. And if we go to the sold data right here, we see that last year in June, there was 4,219 units sold compared to only 3,082, which is negative 26%. We are seeing the negative from the beginning of the year right here. I'm going to highlight it. All of that is negative sales. Whoop, what did I just do? There we go. Oh, I just dragged that to the wrong spot. There we go. Cool. So we see that that is negative 29%, negative 15%, negative 21, negative 29, negative 19, and almost negative 27, right? 26.95. We see that the sales are down year over year every single month. That means with the listings hitting at a lower amount, there is a pent up seller demand with that buyer demand. So it's not just a buyer demand. And watch the previous videos. I've went over all of this. So let's go on and move over to the next data sheet here in the Excel. Right here is 550,000. I'm going to break this down in case it's your first time watching, but we bottomed out at $510,000 in January of 2023. Most of those houses went under contract in December of 2022. May of 2022 at $600,000 was the peak. So we had a 15%, if you go over here to the right, drop from the median price in May to January, from May of 2022 to January of 2023. Now, prices started going back up as we see over here, but it was still negative year over year. And right now, we just hit 8,000 units on the MLS for sale like we did last year in July when the market started tanking. And I've been saying that the data is showing that we're probably going to have not that 15% drop, maybe about a 10% drop compared to a year ago, unless something happens within the economy and unemployment starts going up and the student loan payment being resumed. That is going to impact, as I'm pretty sure the GDP is going to take a hit because there's going to be less consumer spending during the holidays. And once those loans get passed, even though it's just going to be accruing interest and the payments aren't due, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to start making those payments to avoid the interest accruing on those student loans, which is going to affect the economy. Now, back to the Excel sheet right here. When is the best time to buy if you don't want to wait forever, for a year and a half, 2 years, however long this is going to be unraveling for? It's going to be October, November, and December. And really anytime after the school year starts. So right here, I'm going to highlight July. July was the first bad month, and we see June in 2022 was a small decline. Well, July in 2022 was a major decline, and the numbers are resembling those. However, we started going up on inventory this year when we had 6,000 units compared to last year was 2,000. So now we are at that 8,000 units, but last year inventory was growing at a much quicker pace than it is now. It's just that we had a head start. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is what's going on with the interest rates. So if you take a look here, July was the first really bad month, and interest rates were 5.8, 5.7, and then once interest rates in October, November got into the sevens, that's when the economy for the housing market was really, really bad. Well, if we take a look here, we've been around 7%. So in July of last year, inventory was 8,000 compared to what it is today. Interest rates were 5%, then they dropped actually going into September. The Fed is now saying that they're going to increase the Fed rate potentially 2 more times. There really is not going to be any Fed cuts, and interest rates are going to stay at this level for quite some time here, and if not going up a little bit higher as well. So we're not going to go under 6.5%. That would probably be the best case scenario. But anyways, we're pretty much hovering right around that 7%, and we are right now above 7% compared to 5.8 a year ago. And we're probably not going to have this dip where it falls down 0.5% or 1% like it did in September or in August last year. Now back to the Excel sheet, and we're going to wrap this up right here. So if we have a 10%, instead of this 15% drop, which took the median price from, and it's going to be here to the right of the Excel, I'm going to highlight that. So $600,000 went down to 510, which was a 15% drop. Well, right now we are at $550,000, and we ended up at $510,000 in January. Well, if we have a 10% drop, that's a 55% or a $55,000 drop from that median price that we're at currently of $550, which means that the median price would be $495,000 if we see that 10% drop. And of course, if we don't see something in the economy that could affect unemployment, because once unemployment starts going up, that is going to impact housing, because housing prices have been dropping and haven't been stable with a historically low unemployment rate. Well, if we start having people forced to sell, unfortunately, because something happens in the economy, that is going to increase the inventory. Doesn't matter what their interest rate is, they're going to be forced to sell. They're going to have to liquidate that house. And once unemployment starts going up, we are going to see the inventory of people that have to sell no matter what. And that, of course, would bring prices down. Now, that is right here, $495. So your best time to buy is going to be once the school year starts. September is going to give you the most amount of choices out there. However, October, November, and December is going to get you the best deal, because that's when the housing market typically always slows down. Last year, it went into a standstill. Builders were even getting desperate. Once the new year flipped around, a lot of them started discounting their inventory by $50,000, $80,000, $100,000, $120,000. That's what you have to pay attention to. Of course, subscribe, give me a thumbs up. I'm going to keep you updated with what's going on in the economy and the housing market. That way, whenever that time is for you to buy, if it's sooner than later, if you don't want to wait, or if you want to wait and see how these things are unraveling, I'll keep you updated as well. If that's next year, the year after, whatever's going on. So make sure you subscribe again, and thanks for watching.